Good morning. Am I audible? Am I audible? Good morning. Hello. Anusha N. Anusha.
Yes, sir.
So screen share is visible.
Yes, sir.
Screen
Yes,
share.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So in the last class we were discussing about the storage zones of a reservoir. So this is a very usual question in the examination in Module 5. So with the need sketch, explain the storage zones of a reservoir. So this is the figure which explains about the various storage zones of the reservoir. Now this is the dam structure and this is the spillway, the crest of the spillway gate or the crest of the spillway. And within the body of the dam, you can have a sluice way from which also you can take out the water from the reservoir. And these are the various levels. There is the maximum pool level and the retarding pool level. So this portion is known as the surcharge storage. So which has to be disposed of, which cannot be retained in the reservoir. And the water level between the retarding pool level and the normal pool level is called as the flood control storage. So whenever there is a excess flow in the stream. So in case of flood, so some portion of the water can be stored in the reservoir. So as and when the flood resides, so this portion of the water can be released through the spillway gates. And the water level between the normal pool level and minimal pool level is called as the live storage or active storage. So this portion of the stored water is utilized for the various purposes, that is for various multi-purposes like irrigation, water, domestic and industrial water supply and powerhouse generation. So whatever may be the demand. So next, the water level below this minimum pool level. So it's called as the dish storage. So this portion has to be remained in the reservoir for stability purpose. So this cannot be taken for any use. So in the extensive survey project, we have carried out the new tank project. So this storage height will be about 10% of the total height of the reservoir. So this portion has to be stored in the reservoir. Now, so the following are the various zones of storage in a reservoir. So the useful storage, it is known as the active storage or live storage. So surcharge storage is the storage which has to be disposed in case of heavy flood, and dead storage is the portion which has to be remained in the reservoir, and bank storage. In sometimes the banks of the river, if they are pervious, then if there is a high stage of flow in the river, some portion of the water is stored in the banks of the river, and the same will be contributed to the stream flow as and when the flood resides. And also we have the valley storage. So these are the various storage zones of a reservoir. Now, the maximum level to which the water will rise in the reservoir during ordinary operation condition is called as the normal pool level. The normal pool level is corresponding to either level of spillway crest or the top of level of the spillway gates. And the level to which the water rises during the design flood is known as the maximum pool level. So this is the surcharge storage, correct? Now, these are self-explanatory. Now you can see here bank storage. If the banks of the reservoirs are porous or pervious, some water is temporarily stored by them when the reservoir is full. So the stored water in the banks later drain into the reservoir when the water level in the reservoir falls. That means when the water level in the reservoir is less than the phreatic level of the bank storage, then naturally there will be a hydraulic gradient. So whatever the water that is stored in the bank storage will be contributed to the reservoir. Next is valley storage. The volume of water held by the natural river channel in its value up to the top of its bank before the construction of a reservoir is called as the valley storage. So the valley storage depends upon the cross section of the river, the length of the river and its water level. So these are also the definition which are self-explanatory. Next, we shall discuss something about the storage capacity and yield. So the storage capacity is basically the storage capacity of reservoir mainly depends on the stream which is contributing to the reservoir. That is from the catchment, how much water is available to store. So based on it, you can decide the storage capacity of a reservoir. So the yield from a reservoir, So the yield from a reservoir is nothing but it is the assured amount of water that can be withdrawn from the reservoir in a specific period of time during critical period. During critical period is called as the yield from a reservoir. So yield is the volume of water which can be drawn from a reservoir in a specified period of time. The time period for the estimation of yield is selected according to the size of the reservoir, whether it is a single purpose reservoir or multi-purpose reservoir. So it may be a day for a small reservoir and it may be a month or a year for a large reservoir. So for example, if 25,000 cubic meter of water supplied from a reservoir in 1 year, then the yield from the reservoir will be 25,000 cubic meter per year or 2.5 hectare meter per year. So it depends on the demand on the downstream side, whether the reservoir is a single purpose reservoir. In case of single purpose of reservoir, the storage capacity will be less because it serves only one purpose. Suppose if it is a multi-purpose reservoir, the demand is more. So hence the water storage is more and it serves many purposes. In such a case, the yield is determined based on the demand on the downstream side. Next is the safe yield, or it is also called as the firm yield from the reservoir. So safe yield is the maximum quantity of water which can be supplied or which can be drawn from a reservoir in a specified period of time during critical dry year. So suppose in some cases where you have less rainfall in the monsoon season, so then the safe yield or firm yield means it is the minimum or maximum quantity of water that can be supplied from a reservoir during critical period of time, especially in the winter months and summer months. Some crop requires water for its growth. So in such a case, the reservoir has to be built to meet this demand, that is the safe yield or firm yield. So basically safe yield is the minimum or maximum quantity of water which can be supplied or drawn from a reservoir in a specified period of time during the critical dry period. Next is the secondary yield. So secondary yield is the quantity of water which is available during the period of high flow in the river. So whenever there is a high flow in the river, so whatever the water that is available during that period is called as the secondary yield. So when the yield is more than the safe yield, so actually the secondary yield will be greater than the safe yield because it is available during high stages of flow in the river. So there is no firm commitment or guarantee to supply the secondary yield. So it is supplied as and when at lower rates. So this is not required. So basically secondary yield is nothing but whatever the water that can be available for crops during high flow in the river. Next is the average yield. The average yield is the arithmetic average of the firm yield or safe yield and the secondary yield over a long period of time is called as the average yield. So these are some of the basic definition. That is the yield from a reservoir. It is the assured quantity of water that can be supplied or withdrawn from a reservoir to meet the various demands on the downstream side. And safe yield is the maximum or minimum quantity of water which can be supplied during critical dry period. And the secondary yield is nothing but it is the water that is available for crops during whenever there is a high stage of flow in the river. And the average yield is nothing but the arithmetic average. The arithmetic average of the safe yield and firm yield is known as the average yield. The average yield is the arithmetic average of the firm yield and the secondary yield over a long period of time. Now, so we can estimate the capacity of a reservoir capacity of a reservoir by a method known as the mass inflow curve. Mass inflow curve. So in the earlier classes also we have discussed what is a mass curve. Mass curve is nothing but it's a plot of cumulative flow, cumulative inflow versus time in years or time in hours. Now, the reservoir capacity corresponding to a specific field is determined with the help of mass inflow curve and the demand curve. So a mass inflow curve is a plot between the cumulative inflow in the reservoir with respect to time. So hence, mass curve is always a rising curve. Mass curve is always a rising curve because it is a plot of cumulative inflow into the reservoir versus time in minutes or time in hours. So in some cases, you may have a flatter portion. You may have a straight line portion in the mass curve, so which indicates periods of no rainfall, periods of rainfall, and mass curve will be always a rising curve because it is a plot of cumulative inflow versus time in minutes. So this is the typical figure which shows the mass curve. So this is along y-axis, you have to take the cumulative inflow, along x-axis, that is time scale, that is whether it may be in minutes or years. Now, we can estimate the reservoir capacity by means of this mass curve and the demand curve. Now, this demand curve, there are two types of demand curve. One is a constant demand curve. The other one is a varying demand curve. So whenever you have a straight line, so now you can see here the accumulated demand in a particular year with respect to time, correct? So if it is a straight line, then the demand is constant on the downstream side. And in certain cases, the demand may not be constant. In such a case, we'll have a curve-like graph, which indicates the varying demand during the different seasons in a year, whether it may be in a rainy season or winter season or summer season. Normally, in rainy season, the water requirement from a reservoir will be less, whereas in the case of winter also, we may require little amount of water, especially the demand for water for various crops are high, especially during the summer months. Now, by using this demand curve and mass curve, we can calculate the storage capacity of a reservoir. So now let us discuss how to calculate the storage capacity of a reservoir by using the mass inflow curve and the demand curve. So demand curve is a plot between accumulated demand with respect to time, and the demand curve representing a uniform rate of demand is a straight line. So wherever you have a constant rate of demand, then the demand curve will be a straight line having slope equal to the demand rate. A demand curve may be curved also, indicating variable rates of demand. So these two figures clearly explains the whatever the demand that is on the downstream side, whether the demand is constant or it is varying. Now, we can determine the required capacity of the reservoir based on the demand. Now, the capacity of a reservoir required depends upon the inflow available and demand. So whatever the inflow into the river and the outflow from the reservoir, that is the demand on the downstream side. If the available inflow in the river is always greater than the demand, there is no storage required. So it is obvious, because if the demand is less and the supply is more, then the storage of water is not required. On the other hand, if the inflow in the river is small, but the demand is high, a large reservoir capacity is required, because only during certain months in a year you have the inflow in the river, especially in the southern parts of India, peninsular India, we have the non-perennial rivers where you have only sufficient flow in the monsoon period. So in such a case, you require a large reservoir capacity so that water can be stored and the same water can be supplied during the different periods of the year. Now, the required capacity for a reservoir can be determined by the following methods. So these are the three methods by which we can estimate the capacity of the storage capacity of the reservoir based on the demand. So the first one is the graphical method, or by using the mass curve. The second one is the analytical method, and the third one is the flow duration curve method. So this flow duration curve method is not included in your syllabus. So you have only the graphical method, that is by using mass curve, and the second one is the analytical method. Now we shall discuss the graphical method. So graphical method using mass curve. So from the flood hydrograph of inflow for several years. So in the previous classes, we have discussed what is a hydrograph. Hydrograph is a plot of discharge versus time in minutes or years. And you know the various components of a hydrograph. Starting, you have a rising limb, then you have the crest portion, then you have the recession limb, and you know the different methods to separate the base flow component from a observed flood hydrograph. So from the flood hydrograph of inflow for several years, prepare the mass inflow curve and also the mass curve of demand on the same scale. That means from the available records of the hydrograph, we can plot a mass curve of inflow, because mass curve is basically a plot of cumulative inflow into the reservoir versus time in minutes. On the same graph, we can also plot the demand curve. So whether it may be a constant demand curve or it may be a variable demand curve. So from the apices of the mass curve, say A1, A2, A3. Now we shall look at this figure, how we can calculate the storage capacity of a reservoir. Now, so you have a mass curve here. So mass curve is nothing but it is cumulative inflow versus time in years. Now this is the mass curve. You have this mass curve like this. It is always a rising curve like this. Now, once you draw the mass curve, then you have to draw the demand curve on the to the same scale. Now here, so for a particular year, particular 1 year, you have a demand of about 3,400 hectare meter. So this is a straight line plot because you have a constant demand. So on the same graph, you draw the mass inflow curve, and also the demand curve. Now, from the mass curve, we have to identify the peaks of the mass curve. So the peaks of the mass curves are A1, A2, A3. So these are the peaks of the mass curve, A1, A2, A3, A4. So you have to identify the apices are the peaks of the mass curve, that is A1, A2, A3, A4. Now, you have to draw a line which is parallel to the demand line on the mass curve. From the apices of the mass curve, you have to draw a line which is almost parallel to the demand curve. So these are the lines which are drawn from the apices of the mass curve. You can see here, this is the line which is parallel to the demand curve. So similarly from A2, so this is the line which is parallel to the demand curve. Similarly from A3, this is the straight line which is parallel to the demand curve. Now these are the apices of the mass curve, A1, A2, A3, A4, and these are the lines which are drawn from the apices of the mass curve, so which are parallel to the demand curve. Now here you can see this is, you can call this point as E1 and this as D1 and this as C1. Now you draw a dotted line here. So now here, this is from this graph, you can calculate the required storage capacity of the reservoir. So now these are the vertical intercepts, that is E1, D1, E2, D2, E3, D3, E3, D3. So you have to look out which one is having the greater vertical intercept. So here in this graph, E2, D2 is nothing but which is having the highest vertical ordinate, so which is about 2,100 hectare meter. So by which we can fix the storage capacity of the reservoir based on the demand curve. Now let us look at the descriptive part. Now from the apices of the mass curve, say A1, A2, A3, draw tangents or parallel lines to the demand curve. So measure the maximum vertical intercepts or the ordinates between the mass curve and the demand curve. That means you have to measure the vertical ordinates between the mass curve and the demand curve. That is known as E1, D1, E2, D2, and E3, D3. So measure the maximum vertical intercepts or ordinates between the mass curve and the demand curve. So E1, D1, E2, D2, E3, D3, etc. between the tangent and the mass curve. The vertical intercepts indicate the volume by which the inflow falls short of demand. For example, for a period of corresponding to points A1, C1, C1, D1 represents the net inflow, while C1, E1 represents the demand. Hence, the volume E1, D1 has to be provided from the reservoir storage. That means, now you can see here, this is the volume of water required to meet a particular demand. So in a particular year, so this is A1, C1. So here, correct? Here, this E1, C1 and D1, C1. So this D1, C1 is nothing but the net inflow into the reservoir, whereas E1, C1 is the net demand. Now you can see here. Vertical intercepts indicate the volume by which the inflow falls short of demand. For example, for a period corresponding to points A1, C1 in a particular year, C1, D1 represents the net inflow, while C1, E1 represents the demand. Correct? C1, E1 represents the net inflow, and C1, D1 represents the net demand. You can see here. For example, for a period corresponding to points A1 and C1, C1, D1 represents the net inflow, while C1, E1 represents the demand. Hence, the volume E1, D1 has to be provided from the reservoir storage. That means this is the volume E1, D1 has to be provided from the reservoir. Here, this is the net demand. That is C1, E1 is the net demand, whereas C1, D1 is the net inflow into the reservoir, but whereas E1, D1 is the demand, the required demand. So hence this has to be supplied from the reservoir. So you have to look out for the maximum vertical intercept, whether E1, D1 is greater or E1, D2 is greater or E3, D3 is greater. So which decides the storage capacity of the reservoir. So for a given period of time, C1, D1 represents the net inflow, while C1, E1 represents the demand. Hence, the volume E1, D1 has to be provided from the reservoir storage. So the biggest of the vertical ordinates among E1, D1, E2, D2, E3, D3, etc. represents the required storage capacity. So the vertical distance between the successive tangents represents the water wasted over the spillway. So again, I will explain this again. So first you plot the mass inflow curve. Based on the available data, that is cumulative inflow versus time. So on the same graph, you plot or construct the demand curve in a particular year. So the slope of the demand curve gives you the demand in that particular year. Now, once you draw the mass curve, then identify the peaks of the mass curve, A1, A2, A3. Then you draw tangents from the apex of the mass curve. So these tangents are basically parallel to the slope of the demand curve. So draw tangents from the apex of the mass curve and draw a horizontal line or a vertical line, E1, D1, E2, D2, E3, D3. So the vertical intercept, the maximum vertical intercepts represents the required storage capacity of the reservoir. So in this mass curve, in a given period of time, C1, D1 is the net inflow into the reservoir. C1, D1 is the net inflow into the reservoir, whereas E1, D1 is the storage capacity of the reservoir, whereas E1, C1 is the net demand. So this storage has to be provided for the demand from the reservoir. So the vertical intercept, whichever the vertical intercepts are the highest one, represents the required storage capacity of the reservoir. So in this case, the E2D2 is having the highest vertical intercept. It is about 2,110 meters. So by graphical method, we can find the storage capacity of a reservoir by using the mass curve and also the demand curve. Now, I think that completes the entire syllabus. So next class we shall discuss about the analytical method of determining the storage capacity of a reservoir. So in module 5, every time you have this question. So first is I have a question like this. That is, what are the investigation required for a reservoir. So we have already discussed the engineering investigation, geological investigation, hydrological investigation, and how to calculate the water spread area by using trapezoidal formula, cone formula, and prismoidal formula. And what are the importance of geological investigation, the hydrological investigation, and how to select a suitable site for a reservoir. So these things are quite self-explanatory. And we have also discussed the various storage zones of a reservoir and also some of the basic definitions like the yield from a reservoir, that is the safe yield, average yield, firm yield, and secondary yield. So these are the definitions, and you can calculate the storage capacity of the reservoir by the three methods. One is the graphical method, the second one is the analytical method, the third one is the flow duration curve method. So in your syllabus, you have only the analytical method and the graphical method. So by graphical method, by using the mass inflow curve and also the demand curve, so you can estimate the storage capacity of a reservoir. So tomorrow, again, you have my class 9:20. So we shall take up the analytical method of estimating the storage capacity of a reservoir. So I think tomorrow I will be going to complete the entire syllabus. So these are some of the, anyway, I will share these notes through WhatsApp. So you can go through. So these are quite self-explanatory. So all the definitions have been given. Okay, I will be ending the class. Please mark your attendance in the chat box.